Season 4. This episode is entitled Pruning Isn't Punishment. Have you ever watched a gardener cut back a healthy plant? Not a dead branch, not a diseased branch, not a rotten branch, but a healthy branch. At first glance, it can look like it's really cruel. Why would a gardener cut something that is growing, that is fertile, that is thriving? Why would a gardener do that? Why would a gardener remove something that's alive, that can potentially bear fruit? Why would the gardener let go of something that's producing real fruit? But here's the thing, gardeners understand something many of us struggle in real life to accept. Not everything that is growing is helping us to grow. That could be in the natural, the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional. Because not everything that is growing, spirit, mind, and body, is helping us grow. And sometimes the very thing preventing greater growth isn't what is dead. It's what we've become attached to. And as we continue walking through the garden, today we're talking about pruning, letting go, releasing, opening up our hands and letting it go. And why sometimes less is how more happens. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised in church and my great-grandmother played the piano for church and I actually sang in the choir. And my faith journey has always been at the center of who I am. And I am incredibly thankful to have been raised by a hardworking, smart, professional, sacrificial, high-functioning, high-performing, single mother who remains my biggest fan and forever bestie, my BFF, my best friend for real. Honoring God through service, making my mama proud, and using the gifts he gave me has always been deeply important to me. And over the past several seasons of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2TC8, Her Circle, which stands for High Performing Empowered Women and some men, thank you for listening, who are ready to thrive, we've talked about awareness, detox, discernment, boundaries, the No More Nice series, rebuilding, and becoming. But as I entered this next season, season 4, I found myself thinking less about what needed to be removed and more about what needed to be cultivated. Because before a gardener plants for the next season, the gardener walks the garden. The gardener takes inventory. The gardener notices what's flourished. The gardener notices what struggled. The gardener notices what produced fruit, what didn't. The gardener notices what never took root. The gardener notices, above all, what needs pruning. And the gardener notices what has completed its purpose. And that's what season 4 is all about, walking the garden. Taking an honest look at the people, places, and things in our lives, not with judgment, not with shame, but with wisdom. Because every person, every place, and everything produces fruit. And examining the fruit and the root of the fruit is just as important. And before we ask for a bigger harvest, we may need to take a closer look at the root. So whether you're a high-performing, high-functioning mother, single father, caretaker, entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, working a 9-to-5, juggling 2 or 3 jobs, quietly rebuilding, or simply trying to grow through life one season at a time, this space and this circle is for you. So if you're listening and are watching, pull up a real chair or a digital chair and grab yourself a cup of hot or cold herbal tea, and welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8, C2TC8, Her Circle, high-performing, empowered women and some men who are ready to thrive. a 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro-living transformations. And I am truly overjoyed that you are here. Now let's take one breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One of the hardest lessons in gardening is understanding the purpose of pruning. Most of us assume pruning is about removal, but gardeners understand that pruning is actually about redirection. And the goal isn't to harm the plant. The goal is to help it thrive. Pruning allows the plant to focus its energy, to focus where the sunlight goes. It creates space. It improves health. It encourages stronger growth. And sometimes it produces more fruit than would have been possible otherwise. Life often works the same way. We assume every opportunity should be pursued. We assume every encounter or relationship should be maintained. Every commitment should continue. Every role should be preserved. But healthy growth requires discernment. And sometimes some things have completed their assignment. Some things serve their purpose. Some things, some people, places, and things have helped us become who we needed to be. But they were never intended to grow and go with us forever. And that's where pruning becomes difficult because we often mistake letting go for failure. We assume that if something ends, it must have been wrong. If something changes, it must have been broken. If something leaves, it must have been lost. But what if pruning isn't punishment? What if pruning is preparation? What if God isn't taking something from you? What if He's creating space for what comes next? Sometimes we hold on to people, places, and things because we're afraid. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of uncertainty. We're afraid of empty space. But gardeners know that overcrowding can prevent growth. Too many branches, too many commitments, too many obligations, too many distractions, too much of everything. Eventually, something has to be trimmed back so something healthier can emerge. Which brings us to the PPT audit. People, places, and things. People. Who have I outgrown? Who have I been holding on to out of history rather than health? Who consistently adds value to my garden? Who may have completed their assignment in this season of my life? Places. What environments no longer support my growth? What spaces am I remaining in simply because they're familiar? What spaces are inviting me into something new? Things. What commitments am I carrying that no longer align with where I'm going? What habits in your life need pruning? What habits and what responsibilities in our lives have become distractions? And what are we afraid to release? The SAC challenge, the spontaneous, authentically assertive communication challenge. It's simple this time. Identify one area where you've been holding on to that no longer is necessary. Then practice one act of spontaneous, authentically assertive communication. And it may sound something like, I really appreciate the opportunity, but I'm going to pass. I can't continue to commit to this at the same level, so I'm going to have to step back. This season of my life requires something different, but thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed this chapter, but it's time for me to move forward. Or maybe the conversation is with ourselves. Maybe SAC sounds like, I don't have to keep carrying this. I don't have to allow people to dump on me and then expect me to carry it. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. And the first thing I need to prove is to myself. And we can release this with gratitude. And remember, pruning doesn't always require anger. Sometimes pruning requires appreciation. And we could be thankful for something and let it go. And let the people and the places and the things, let them go so that we can grow. Which brings me to the 3 keys. Key number 1, pruning isn't punishment. Pruning is preparation. And sometimes what may feel like a loss to us is actually making room for greater growth. Key number 2, not everything that is good belongs in every season. And prayer and discernment means recognizing when something has completed its purpose. Which brings me to key number 3. Letting go requires trust and it requires faith. Trust that releasing what no longer serves us creates space for what does. Let me say that again. We can trust and we can have faith that releasing what no longer serves us is creating space for what will and what does serve us. The 1 reflection question: what am I holding on to that may be preventing healthy growth? Today, we explored why pruning is an essential part of growth. And not because something is wrong, and not because something has failed, but because a healthy growth requires focus. Sometimes the greatest act of stewardship isn't adding something new, it's releasing something old. A branch, a commitment, an expectation, a habit, a relationship. This could be a friendship, a romantic relationship, a family relationship, a version of yourself, of ourselves that people want to hold you to. And this week, I want us to pay attention to what we've been carrying and ask ourselves, is this helping me grow? The people, the places, the things, are they helping me to grow? Or is it preventing my growth? Because sometimes less is how more happens. And before we go, let's revisit today's 3 keys. Key number 1, pruning isn't punishment, it's preparation. Key number 2, not everything that is good belongs in every season. Key number 3, this one's a hard one. Letting go requires trust and it builds our faith. And our 1 reflection question: what am I holding on to that may be preventing healthy growth? And this week, I want you to take this question with you and sit with it, pray about it, journal about it, and see what rises to the surface. Remember, a gardener doesn't prune because they hate the plant. The gardener prunes because they believe it has even greater potential than what it produced in the previous season. So, I want us and I encourage us to give ourselves grace in this space. And we're going to take 1 closing breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If this episode pricked your heart or lit a spark, please subscribe and share this episode with someone you care about. And please leave a comment so that this becomes a dialogue and not a monologue. And if you feel led, leave a 5-star rating so that this space can continue to grow and serve others. Until the next time, I am Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. And this has been another episode of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2TC8. Her Circle, her standing for high-performing, empowered women and some men who are ready to thrive. A 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro-living transformations. Abundant blessings to you and yours. And remember, Sometimes the branch that gets pruned isn't withering, dying, or rotting. It's making room for greater growth.